Hi, I'm Chris Reid, Managing Director and CEO of Australian listed materials producer, Neometals.
Hi, Chris. How are you? So I know you're on the road, and we're hoping to see you in London, but you've had to dash off. So where are you?
In Budapest at the moment for the benchmark gigafactories.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a industry sort of love-in with the cathode producers and cell producers and car makers and probably a couple of competitors. And a fair few investors too. So no, it's a very good conference.
Good. Okay. Well, I guess EV and battery continues to be the darling of the markets at the moment because a lot of conferences are struggling to actually get companies and investors to turn up. So all good news. Look, today, if you don't mind, Chris, I'm going to kind of focus on the Vanadium Recovery Project in Pori, Finland. You put out some press releases recently about conversations around the debt. Maybe give us an update on that one, and then I'll kind of get into the conversation I want to have.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I was in Helsinki on Tuesday, so meeting with our various advisors on the debt and the equity, and the debt is obviously very, very advanced. We look to have the EIB subject to their final due diligence in going through the sort of administrative process, cornerstoning the debt. You know, we're hopeful of having sort of 100 to 120 million euros in a cornerstone piece from the EIB. We're hoping the Nordic Investment Bank will follow, and then supplemented by a couple of commercial banks. So, you know, of the 400 million total required for that project, 250 million euros envisaged to come from debt, and that'll mean that there'll be about 150 million euros maximum to be raised by new equity into RISAB. So, you know, we're not raising equity in Neometals to put into RISAB. We're actually prepared to wear some dilution at this point in time in the project as opposed to the head company.
Right. Okay. And that's a really important distinction that you're making there, because if I look at your share price, I think people are looking at what's going over at Finland and thinking there's a bunch of dilution coming in at Headco, a Pubco. So that's definitely not the case.
That's correct.
Okay. Simple as that. Really? Well, it's worth clearing up because I think some people won't necessarily been paying attention to this, and it might be one of those typical moments, you know.
Yeah, I think we have this deadline for March 31st for the guys at Critical to put their $3 million into RISAB to maintain their 50-50 equity. That's pre-money raise. And so if that doesn't happen, then we would move to 75-25. That'll clear the way for the equity advisors, which is Scandinavia's largest bank. They're doing the equity advising. They will then start their equity raising process.
Right. Okay. So, and for you, is there any distinction between 50-50 and 75-25? Would that signal, why would they not put money in?
I think it's just a matter of them raising the money. That's all.
Okay.
They're out raising money at the moment to put into it.
Right. Would you be prepared to extend that deadline?
For March 31st? No, because we've got a 30 June FID.
Okay, fine, understood. So with regards to again, just stick with that project for now, because once that deadline is passed and whatever it is, 50-50, 75-25, the conversations around the equity raise will take some time to happen. They will take time to negotiate and the terms and the cost of that money. And I appreciate it's not into Headco. The debt, you're saying you feel that it's pretty much there, or are you very comfortable with the terms around that?
Yeah, look, we're highly confident. We've put on a CEO into RISAB, Miss Joanna Laminen, and look, she's run one of the biggest banks in Scandinavia. She has been the CEO of the national gas producer. You know, she is a very, very well recognized, highly regarded businesswoman in Finland. So she's the CEO of RISAB and really handling the commercial side. We've got one of our chief development officer who's going to actually operate as their chief operating officer for that project. So we do all the engineering approvals, all of that sort of stuff, supported by in-country team in Finland. We've currently got 3 people in Finland.
Okay, and so that's fine. And then really around this kind of cost of money, again, given the environment at the moment, we've seen rising costs, energy costs across Europe. we've seen, the French are out riding on the streets at the moment, and in the UK we're doing some very, very polite protests. Cost environment right now. Are you timing this right, or are you kind of impervious to those sorts of strains in the market, and you feel that you need to work to the current timeline?
Well, I was impervious to it. The direct cost to develop the project at 300 million, we've just elected to have 100 million buffer in there to get you through the construction period, any overruns that you might experience. In that time, we felt that was just a very prudent margin for RISAB to operate as a separate entity. In terms of the costs, I mean, look, everyone's seen the spreads in the banking world for debt, right? And they are increasing. And so, we've been working with the EIB for more than 12 months, having them cornerstone this project because it is of a strategic nature. You are making a battery material that's on the critical metals list in Europe from waste while sequestering carbon in the Nordics, right? This is what, the European Union Investment Bank is for. These sorts of projects, as recognised by the Nordics, as recognised by a lot of the pension funds, and indeed the various Finnish sovereign investment funds. So, look, we are very comfortable, notwithstanding it's an exceptional amount of money in this market. The tenor of the interest rates is really set by the EIB. It's very, very competitive. It's always a small margin over Euribor. I think one of the beauties and that attracts, that increases the probability of getting the commercial banks is that the financings will be guaranteed by Finnvera, which is the Finnish export credit. So it's a very sort of stable sort of panel of banks that would be borrowing off, and it's the equity markets that are choppier than the debt markets, from our point of view. But I've got to say I'm really, really pleased that up in the Nordics, it's a bit of a club. You don't see any of the real big international investment banks there. They like to do it themselves. They all know each other, and they all like to invest and loan as clubs.
Right. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And I know that from previous time as a banker. So I believe that to be true. The other thing is, I guess, remind people about the time frame from where we are now. Assuming we get this finance in order, in no short order. Yeah. Where revenues the next important kind of big milestone for people to can value you? When's that happen?
Look, for that project, it's not until the start of 2026, right? But in terms for Neometals as the head company, we're making revenues from tipping fees and black mass sales from our spoke in Hiltrenbach. We'll be getting fees for the plant supply that we'll be supplying to Mercedes Benz. We're just waiting to get them to put ink to paper. That's largely dependent on when the refiling of the approval of their refiled government grant comes through for that project. And then the next cab off the rank is offering a plant supply package to Stelco. Equally, we'll be looking to make an investment decision to participate in that joint venture. But we move. We'll have a number of revenue streams. At the moment, it's a small revenues from our principal operations, supplemented by equipment sales on which we make a margin. On top of that, we'll have either equity or royalty incomes as they go into production.
Right. So the key message I'm getting from this, and I think it's an important one to talk about, because it's clear that, it seems clear that the market perhaps is not aware. This is non-dilutive for Headco, but with and because you employ this kind of cookie cutter approach in terms of finding industrial partners with big balance sheets, with each of the projects, whether it be the lithium-ion recycling or the vanadium recovery or the lithium chemicals, it's non-dilutive to Headco once you get to a certain point. So for vanadium recovery right now, you'll be raising this money separately on both the debt and the equity front. Yeah, simple as.
Correct, into the special purpose
vehicle. Okay, and you will be doing the same again with the Primobius and the SMS group when you reach that stage.
That's correct. Look, as we make decision to participate in the joint venture, then we will need to put money into that.
Right. Different set of opportunities and challenges at that point. That's a kind of growth story, right?
It's much less capital when you're looking at the spokes and you're doing them in 50-50 with counterparties, and then of that remaining, the SMS guys have got to pay 50%. So
right, okay. Yeah. Look, I just wanted clarity on that one, because I kind of saw the reaction in the marketplace. I was wondering if there's something that you were doing or something that was going on, and I think there's a recognition from some of the things questions sent in to us that perhaps might be that slight misunderstanding. Can I just ask you about Bondalti as well? Obviously, kind of lithium chemical story also going on in Portugal. What's happening over there?
Yeah, look, that's going along very, very well. The engineering cost studies on the plant, we should have those out in the coming weeks. Right, so we'll have updated OPEX, CAPEX on, a converting plant that can take lithium chloride brine from South America and turn it into lithium hydroxide in Portugal. So that'll give everyone, previously, in our presentations, we've advertised it'll operate at less than half the current operating costs or converting costs, and about half the cost of, in terms of capital intensity. So, having up-to-date numbers very important in terms for us for attracting more partnerships, but we're very, very focused on Bondalti. In fact, their management will be in town tonight.
Well, it brings us full circle to the beginning of the conversation with regards to the conference that you're at. Obviously, I think you referenced battery manufacturers, automotive manufacturers, investors, and obviously companies telling their story, and it's busy. Yeah. which is a real refreshing change from the stories I've heard about conferences, to do with precious metals and others around the world. Perhaps there's less of an interest. Are you kind of getting a sense that general investors, I'm talking about general funds, are looking into this space in a way that they perhaps weren't, a couple of years ago when you kind of, were at the early stages of this journey you're on?
Yeah, look, absolutely there are more ESG funds. All of the big fund managers do have special pools of capital looking into businesses like this. I think, everyone from us is just really looking at that Mercedes Benz catalyst as the start of, our journey in terms of, being a leading supplier of recycling solutions to the car makers and OEMs, because even as it stands today, we are the only recycler there that will build build plants for third parties for a royalty, and to deliver them the total cost of recycling, because all the profits remain theirs. So, we have competitors in as principal where we compete, and in joint ventures we will, but, our preferred joint venture partners are car makers and cell makers. So we don't really want to fight over the scraps. We want to, we're firmly focused on the big picture. What we want to do is get in as many 500 ton a day plants embedded when those big, large end of life volumes come back next decade. And what we have to do in the interim is to deploy as many 50-ton plants as we can. Cookie cutter approach, prioritize the clients from OEM cell makers down to the aggregators, then execute. And that's why we partnered with SMS. They are the delivery arm to deliver our plants to partners.
Right, and I know you're kind of significantly advanced with Mercedes Benz and the alike, but do you feeling that industry is feeling under pressure from government in terms of just the kind of regulatory environment about how this thing is measured and how they are gauged, as it were, and the need to kind of deliver into some of these really quite aggressive, I'm trying to say, was the word I'm looking for?
The regulations.
Very aggressive targets that have been set by European governments. Now, do you think that pressure is kind of speeding up this conversation and narrative, and is a little bit less looking and a little bit more conversational?
Yeah, absolutely. There's certainly a lot of action around that. I think, the EU battery regs should make it into the Parliament reasonably soon. Hopefully we can have a speedy resolution before summer, if not sort of later in the year. But, the timelines and when they are enforced are unanimous, right? So whether it gets approved this year or next year, 2026 is the starting date that you need to hit the regulatory requirements for nickel recoveries and copper recoveries of 90%. They're significant hurdles. We hope to be there in the next 3 to 6 months. But that's on us. So if we want to be if you want to be a recycler, or you want to supply recycling solutions, you've got to be able to hit those regs. And then for the cell makers, they've got to have minimum recycled content, right? And they're not insignificant numbers. They can range anywhere from 16 to 26% of recycled content. And in that new Critical Raw Materials Act, they've set a target in Europe of getting 15% of all their critical metals from recycling. We'll be able to help them with Finland as it goes to vanadium, but the rest of them, it's a long bow.
Well, it's the very, very aggressive targets, and coming up sooner than you think. It feels like so. Whilst I think we're sort of looking in from outside, it feels like whilst the equities are taking a pause, and whilst people are feeling a little bit risk off in terms of their investments into companies, industry is having to actually step up their efforts.
Yeah, this is market. It's market agnostic, right? This is a mega trend. Yeah. These guys are retooling. There's more cars. There's more. It takes you about 5 years to build a battery cell plant, so you can't put in economic cycles and investment cycles through that. We're in Budapest because they may actually get to Europe's largest capacity first. I think the Germans will probably take over only because they've got the most amount of EV cars. Hungary's a little bit cheaper place to operate, and they're going to have an incredible battery making business here. I think the Germans have the combination of a beautiful battery making business and the world's best EVs.
Well, there we go.
No disrespect, Elon.
No. Exciting and competitive environment for EVs, and great to see you sort of taking your place in amongst some pretty big names there. But, Chris, I'm going to let you crack on. Do come back on. Let us know if there's anything exciting comes out of the conference, and we'll see you soon. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.